Welcome, NFL fans, to another NFL preview. It is October, the season is changing, and it is Breast Cancer Awareness Month in the NFL, where players and coaches spread their awareness for breast cancer. I am D'Angelo Stevenson with my co-host,
Nick Veronesi.
and we are here to give you another AFC preview. Well, we have one of three of our international games in the NFL, with the Miami Dolphins taking on the New York Jets. And one of the biggest stories in this game is Darrelle Revis. He has a hamstring injury and he is questionable. How do you think the Jets defense will react to this game?
Well, I certainly think they're going to miss Revis, but ever since he joined the team this past year, I think they've really come back to life. They have a new coach in Todd Bowles, but I think this team will make a long run defensively.
And I think the New York Jets still has one of the best defenses in the NFL, so I'm going to take them in the score of 21-14.
Okay, I will have to agree with you on the Jets winning. The London games have had a long history of not being the most exciting games out there, and I think a lot of the fans are going to be very excited to see this Jets defense light up the Miami Dolphins.
This game we're going to talk about is the Kansas City Chiefs going against the Cincinnati Bengals. Nick, what do you see what happening in this game?
Well, it's going to be a very tall task for the Kansas City Chiefs because they're playing a Cincinnati Bengals offense that is on fire. You got 8 touchdown passes from Andy Dalton, 3 of them to their star wide receiver, A.J. Green. It's going to be a tough battle for the defense.
Yeah, you look at Kansas City defense, who played so well in their last 2 games up until that game against Green Bay, and you just see the Cincinnati offense with Andy Dalton and A.J. Green. They are on fire, especially last week with 3 touchdowns. So I think I'm going to see Kansas City lose this game 14-28.
Yep, this is a big opportunity for the Cincinnati Bengals to gain control in the AFC North. I'm going to say that they win a rout, and go 4-0 and be ahead by 2 games.
And our next game is from a historical time, Super Bowl 25, with the New York Giants taking on the Buffalo Bills, where again we get to see the explosive talent of Tyrod Taylor, who is putting up big numbers this year so far, averaging at 116 passer rating, which is 5th in the NFL. Man, this man is a beast among boys. What you got him doing against the Giants?
Well, he's also a very accurate passer. He's completed 74% of his passes, and I see that continuing against the Giants' defense.
The Giants' defense is pretty decent, but I don't see them getting the job done against the Buffalo Bills. Tyrod Taylor and this Bills offense is too hot. Rex Ryan knows what he's doing, and they got their thing going on.
Well, Taylor and the Bills, they've been hot, but I'm pulling for an upset in this game. Eli Manning has yet to throw a pick, and I think he goes off in this game. I'm going to call for a high-scoring game, 41-38, Giants.
When you look at the Giants' offense, you think of one name as well, OBJ, Odell Beckham Jr., who is considered one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. So I think this is going to be an upset for me as well. I take the Giants 21-14.
Our next game is the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Indianapolis Colts. D'Angelo, what do you think of this game?
Well, the AFC South is the only division in the NFL who is under 500, and I think the Indianapolis Colts is the favorite to win out of this division. I think they should get their mojo back, and just Andrew Luck should become the quarterback he needs to be, an elite quarterback. I just think they can get it together. I think this is a must-win for them just to get this mojo back, and I think the Colts will take this win 28-21.
Well, this is a good week to try and figure things out. They're playing against the struggling Jacksonville Jaguars team, who lost 51-17 to the Patriots last week. And it's probably going to continue for the Jaguars. They are going to lose to the Colts by a final score of 49-20.
And finally, this is my must-watch game of the week. The Minnesota Vikings against the Denver Broncos. And Adrian Peterson said, and quote, that he is ready for Von Miller, the Denver Broncos linebacker. I think that Adrian Peterson is back to form, and I think he's going to put on a monster show against the Broncos defense.
Well, he certainly has done that in the past 2 weeks. In their 2 home games, he rushed for 260 yards and scored 2 touchdowns. So it's definitely going to be interesting with the thin air in Denver, but Adrian Peterson is looking good.
And plus, we see Peyton Manning is not playing like the usual Peyton Manning we see. A lot of people say it's for age. We just don't know what it is, but I think he's going to come back strong.
The Broncos have had an interesting season. They're 3-0, but all 3 of their wins have been kind of dicey. Last second win against the Ravens, a huge comeback against the Chiefs, and then finally the Sunday night game they win 24-12 over the Lions. Unfortunately, their undefeated streak is going to come to an end, in my opinion. I'm going to say the Vikings win by a final score of 30-14.
You know what? I got the Vikings winning this game, but they're not as big as that. Maybe 28-14. And did you see that stiff arm by Adrian Peterson last week? Oh!
Vintage AP.
My God. Now that wraps things up with the AFC. We're going to kick it over to my main man Chandler and the beautiful Carson for the NFC.
Thanks, guys. Week 3 in the NFC was very exciting as well. Carson, what were some of your takeaways?
Well, we saw that the NFC South is actually going to be pretty strong this year. We have the Carolina Panthers sitting at 3-0 with their win over the Saints. And we also have the Atlanta Falcons who are at 3-0 with their win over the Cowboys.
Yeah. In fact, Atlanta was able to come back. They were down 28-17 at halftime. They ended up scoring, I think, like 21 unanswered points or 22 unanswered points, and they ended up winning the game like 39-28.
Yes, 39-28.
Yeah, Matt Ryan, he looks very strong in the second
Julio
half.
Jones.
Oh, my goodness. He 34 points in my fantasy league. Oh, my goodness. He definitely helped me out. Another team that I was very excited about watching in Week 3 was the Arizona Cardinals. They're 3-0. Colin Kaepernick, I honestly don't know what's going on with him. I mean, threw 4 interceptions, 2 pick sixes to start the game. How's that even possible?
Yeah.
It was really rough. But let's get into Week 4 now. Some of the big games in Week 4 is Carolina is traveling to Tampa Bay to play the Buccaneers. Carson, what do you see happening in that game?
Well, it's really funny, actually, because the Carolina Panthers quarterback, Cam Newton, he was a Heisman Trophy winner and a national champion in college, just like Jameis Winston. They're also both #1 picks, so it's very similar quarterback situations. They also have pretty similar stats as far as yardage goes. So I think it'll be interesting in that sense, but I do have Carolina winning. You know, they're 3-0, they're on a roll, and I don't think Jameis Winston and the Buccaneers are experienced enough to hold back Cam Newton, and Luke Kuechly is questionable for this game, but I've heard some reports that he will return, so that's good for them. And they just picked up Jared Allen from the Bears, so good news for Carolina.
Yep, they did pick up Jared Allen. Let's hope Luke Kuechly plays.
Yep.
I also have Carolina in this game. Even though Tampa Bay, they have really made strides this season. They seem like they're going to be really good in the future. I think Mike Evans has started to play. Vincent Jackson has been playing well on their offense, but I just think Cam Newton and that Carolina offense, they're 3-0 right now. They're riding high. I think that's just going to ultimately be too much for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to handle. Another key division game this week is going to be the St. Louis Rams traveling to Arizona to play the 3-0 and seemingly unstoppable Arizona Cardinals. What do you see happening in this game, Carson?
Well, this is a big NFC West game. And the Cardinals, they've been playing extremely well. Carson Palmer has over 800 yards so far. So I think the Cardinals will definitely win this game. The Rams, they're questionable too. It's not looking good for them. They've had some good games, but overall I think the Cardinals have just been consistent, and they'll definitely win this game.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the Cardinals are going to win this game as well. Like you said, Carson Palmer, he's kind of playing at an MVP level too.
I've heard talk about the Cardinals, possibly going to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, our boy Dalton picked them.
Yep.
So, I mean, maybe.
They haven't trailed all season.
Yeah, they haven't trailed
Crazy.
all season. They destroyed the 49ers last
And they're
week.
averaging 6 touchdowns a game.
Yeah, so, I mean, they are looking great right now. Larry Fitzgerald, he must have found the fountain of youth, or maybe he just has a really good connection with Carson Palmer because he's looking great. They got Patrick Peterson on defense, and, I just think Arizona's definitely going to get the win this week against St. Louis. An interesting interconference game this week is going to be the Oakland Raiders traveling to Chicago to play the terrible, god-awful Chicago Bears. Oakland, on the other hand, looks very good this year. They're 2-1 right now. Derek Carr looks really great. Amari Cooper, he looks great, and that Oakland Raider team looks very good. Strong contrast from what we've seen out of Oakland in the past, definitely. I even have Oakland winning this game pretty handily in Chicago because I think Derek Carr and Amari Cooper, they're becoming a very dynamic duo in the league right now, and I think that's just going to be too much for the Chicago Bears to handle. Not only that, I think Jimmy Clausen starting again this week. He looked god-awful last week, let's just be honest. So, I think Oakland's going to win this game in convincing fashion.
I actually agree with you. I have Oakland going 3-1, which is a change of pace for the Raiders for sure. And with Cutler's injury, he's going to be out 4 to 6 weeks. It's just not looking good for the Bears, and luckily for me, a Lions fan, we have someone else to share the misery of going 0-3 with, and probably 0-4 after this week. And an interesting fact about the Bears, when they played the Seahawks, they punted on every possession, and they had 10. they got blown out 0-26. So I don't see them beating the Raiders this week.
A game that would be very interesting this week if the starting quarterbacks were playing in it is the New Orleans Saints playing the Dallas Cowboys in the Louisiana Superdome. Now, even though it seems like Drew Brees isn't going to play this week, he's kind of been throwing in practice. He's got some reps, but he's probably going to end up being a game time decision this week. And you said that he's kind of been throwing funny this week?
Yeah, I've seen reports just because of his, rotator cuff injury that he's been getting some reps, but he's felt a little better, but some of his throws were looking off. So it'll be interesting to see if he does end up playing.
Yeah, it will definitely be interesting to see. Even if he doesn't play, I still believe the New Orleans Saints are going to get their first win of the season. I believe that because I think the Superdome crowd, even with Luke McCown leading the charge, is just going to propel them to a win over the depleted Cowboys. They got Brandon Weeden at quarterback right now. Matt Castle, he might get some reps in there, but let's be honest, he's only been in the system for about 2 weeks now, so that's not really a good enough time to know an offense. And like I said, I just think that Superdome crowd is going to propel the Saints to their first win of the season. It's going to definitely be a interesting week in the NFL. Now, for those of you that love fantasy football, our boys Danny and Dalton are going to dive right into fantasy football this week.
Thanks, Chandler. Last week was crazy in fantasy football. So many players put up a lot of different points, so let's hope it's kind of the same this week. We're going to start out with our sleepers, and the first guy I want to talk about is Carlos Williams for the Bills. They're playing the Giants this week, and LaShawn McCoy is already ruled out for the game, and Carlos Williams has scored a touchdown in every single game, and that wasn't even as the starter. So now with getting 20 touches, he's just going to have a monster game.
Yeah, I think Marvin Jones is going to go off this week for the Cincinnati Bengals. They're playing Kansas City, who hasn't looked too good on defense so far. He blew up last week, and I think he's going to blow up again this week.
And if you're a gambler, play the Redskins defense versus Philly. I know it's pretty far-fetched, but Philly turns the ball over a lot, and last week was the first week they actually had a good offensive week, so they could be a sneaky defensive play.
Dante Moncrief for the Indianapolis Colts. They're playing Jacksonville this week. Jacksonville does not look too good so far. Even though Andrew Luck may or may not play this week, I still think Dante Moncrief's a good pick. He catches a lot of passes, could definitely catch some touchdowns, and he's been blowing up in recent weeks.
Yeah, now we're going to go into our locks. The first one I want to talk about is Jordan Reed versus Philly. Jordan Reed gets targeted the most on that team, and so look for him to have a big week against Philadelphia.
DeAndre Hopkins, he's been very, very hot recently. He's been scoring like 20-some points each week. They're playing Atlanta this week. Atlanta's defense, like I said earlier, is not very good. So I think DeAndre Hopkins is a definite lock.
Yeah, and I like Amari Cooper versus Chicago because he's had 2 100-yard games over the last 2 games, and Chicago's secondary is horrible. Yeah, and now we're going to move into our dislikes. The first player I dislike is Ryan Tannehill versus the Jets. Tannehill, he's been very, very inconsistent this season. He's been throwing a lot of picks, and the Jets have a great defense, so I would avoid him at all costs.
Another dislike is Matthew Stafford for the Detroit Lions against the Seattle Seahawks. Matthew Stafford has not been playing particularly well so far this season. They're playing the Seahawks, who have one of the best defenses in the entire league, and also Stafford's slightly hurt, so I don't think he's a very good play at all.
All right, next we're going to go into our PPR segment, and Danny's going to give us his picks for the week.
Yeah, for PPR, I like Lance Dunbar versus New Orleans this week. I think Lance Dunbar will be targeted a lot. Danny Woodhead, I think he'll be catching a lot of passes out of the backfield for Cleveland. Emmanuel Sanders, Peyton Manning really likes Emmanuel Sanders. He targets him quite a bit. They're playing Minnesota this week, so I think he'll do fairly well. Now Dalton's going to finish it off with daily fantasy picks.
Okay, I'm high on the Raiders this week, so try stack Derek Carr with Michael Crabtree or Latavius Murray because Derek Carr is only $5,300, which is a bargain, and Michael Crabtree is only $4,600, and also Latavius Murray is only $6,300. So any 3 of those are very, very solid plays. And then next, I want to move into Devontae Freeman. I know he had a great week last week, but DraftKings, I guess, doesn't realize that, so they're still keeping him at a reasonable price at $5,200, so play him again. And then also Melvin Gordon versus Cleveland. Their run defense is atrocious, so I would definitely play Melvin Gordon for $4,900. Well, that wraps things up for us, so on behalf of Capital City Sports, I'm Dalton.
And I'm Danny.
And we'll see you next week.